Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1489.
Aim high and your thinking will adjust.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. I'm revved up and so excited to bring to you today a very special guest who's just down the road from me. We're almost neighbors. Brian Nilsen. He's calling in from Bremerton, Washington. Brian Nilsen has been deeply involved in motorsports industry for over 40 years. For the last 20 years, he's helped build a full-service, multi-line power sports dealership in Bremerton, Washington, titled Brothers Powersports. He is the co-owner. He also operates a Motorsports Park MotoWest and serves as a partner of PacWest MX, a multi-state motocross series promoters group. Today, he is fulfilling a lifelong dream, and he's going to bring a state-of-the-art racetrack and multi-use facility to the Pacific Northwest. He's calling it the Circuit of the Northwest. I am so excited because it's right up the road from my house. This venue will be supported both two-wheel and four-wheel motorsports activities. Brian has teamed up with some of the best-in-class designers, engineers, and experienced operators for this new track facility. Again, it's located east of Bremerton, Washington, just a short ferry ride from Seattle, and a very short drive from Tacoma and Gig Harbor, where I live. I'm fired up. We're going to be back in a minute to talk to Brian, but first, let's say thank you to a couple sponsors that make Cars Yeah possible. We'll be right back. Hey, Cars Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Covercraft. I've protected my vehicles with their products for decades. Want to keep your vehicle's interior looking new? It's easy with Covercraft seat covers. They'll protect your seats from the daily abuse of pets, children, weekend adventures, and even those everyday spills. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. All Covercraft seat covers are easy on, easy off design that are machine washable. You can choose from many fabric options, colors, and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicles. Their seat gloves are semi-custom fit for cars and trucks, and their seat savers, a favorite of mine, are custom tailored to fit your seats like a glove. Work truck seat covers are tough, durable, denim weight fabric. It's like putting a pair of rugged jeans on your truck's seats. Want to stay warm? Covercraft also offers seat heaters. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark at Cars Yeah sent you. That's covercraft.com. Are you a Cars Yeah subscriber? If you're not, go to carsyeah.com, click on the free book button, and I'll send you my free Filler Up book. It's a very cool book I created of fuel filler fun, some very cool imagery, and great quotes from past guests here on Cars Yeah. Plus, you'll get my weekly email follow-up and my weekly blog. Just go to carsyeah.com, click on the free book button, and I'll send it to you right away. Thanks for subscribing. Hey, Brian, welcome to Cars Yeah on a little bit of a rainy Pacific Northwest day. That's what we get here. Are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Oh, I'm ready, Mark. Yeah, thank you. And it's an honor to be on your program.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited. I've heard about this project for so long. And we're going to get in depth with what you're doing up there. But first, could you tell our listeners maybe just a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your history?
Right. Yeah. I'm Brian Nilsen, and I've been in motorsports basically my whole life. My family started Brothers Powersports in Paulsbo, Washington, as a Honda dealer in the mid-'60s. And, from there, I just had an affinity for motorcycles. Of course, that's how it all got started. And then I moved to North Carolina and kind of got my motorsports pedigree working for a NASCAR team. But yeah, I have my I guess feet in a lot of different things right now with different race series and the dealership, of course, and bringing state-of-the-art motorsports complex multi-use to the Pacific Northwest region. So it's a little bit about me.
When Brian called in, I said, "How on earth are you doing all this, my friend?" I mean, as if he wasn't already juggling a whole bunch of balls. Oh, I think I'll just build a little racetrack. It absolutely blows me away, and I can't wait to learn more about how this all came together and what you're doing. But before I jump into my first question, could you tell our listeners maybe one little thing that most people don't know about Brian Nilsen?
Well, yeah, motorsports in the Northwest, I feel is underserved. A lot of people don't really know about NASCAR. And so most people that I run into didn't realize I worked on a NASCAR team for 3 years. They're like,
Right.
well, what's that all about? So that's always an interesting conversation because you have to explain, what a pit crew is and what they do. It might be a noun and a verb back east, but out here it's a new space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worked for 3 seasons for Chad Little, and I was the rear tire carrier on pit stops. I also made the chassis adjustments when the car came in. So
Yeah, pretty fun for sure. I mean, that's kind of like war being in the pits of NASCAR. Long periods of boredom followed by massive moments of excitement and fear. And then all of a sudden it's over and you're like, oh, I'm still alive. We made it. The car's still on the track. So, can't even imagine. Well, listen, as we continue on this journey, we're going to call your life today. I want to ask you for a success quote or a mantra, some kind of saying that has value to you. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires smoking since we're talking about racing here today on Cars Yeah. So Brian, grab the wheel.
yeah, I love quotes, Mark, and I have a lot of them. I write them on my action board for the dealership, and I wrote a couple down, and I think my favorite is aim high and your thinking will adjust. And, I think that one is, I always refer to that one because if you want similar results, do the same thing. But once you channel your thinking to a higher cause, I have a mentor and he always says, you got to think bigger, think bigger. And it's funny what happens in your brain chemistry. You start having, different ideas and different collaborations. And so that's my favorite quote is aim high and your thinking will adjust.
I love it. It reminds me of the great book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And pretty much that's the way. But yeah, if you set your brain on a course to think a certain way, and lots of times we fall into this trap, many people, of negativity. And you see it, especially, I see it on social media because I play in that venue, and people that are constantly posting, oh, woe is me, this happened to me, blah, blah. And you're just like, well, why are you even posting that? I mean, I guess they want some sympathy, but why not just post the good things that are going on? Because that's what you should be focusing on, not this negativity. So I love that. And especially in a business. Yeah. Think bigger, think bigger.
I'll share another quote with you that follows along there. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. So you got to take that criticism as a compliment. And I think when you're in that creativity space and, you're pushing the limits of possible, you're dragging a team with you and, you're going to ruffle feathers. And I think that's a compliment. So I've tried to understand that as I mature and get a little older. I don't, that stuff is a compliment that I look at now. When you run a dealership and you deal with the customers and you operate a motorsports facility and you have 24 public tenants and 14 private tenants, and you're going to have problems.
Right.
Right.
Going to happen.
So it's going to happen. Focus on winning. That's what I like to do.
Focus on winning. I had a lady that worked with me years ago, and she was always, quote unquote, trying to catch a cold. It seemed like every week she'd come in, I'm trying to catch a cold, and she'd wipe her nose. And one day I said, why do you keep trying to catch a cold? And she looked at me and goes, what? And I said, why are you trying to catch a cold? Why don't you start saying, I'm fighting a cold?
Yeah.
So you can't catch it, or I'm ducking and dodging a cold so I don't get it. And I'll tell you what, she was a little angry with me at first, but about a week later, she said, you know what? You changed my mindset. I'm going to start thinking a different way. And I kid you not, she stopped getting sick.
Wow.
Yeah.
The power of the mind.
It's incredible. Yeah. And we hear that with people who have illnesses. My good friend Keith Martin, Sports Car Market, we just launched a new podcast called Buy, Sell, Hold. And he had a horrible stroke last year, and his whole left side of his body was paralyzed. And he was saying that his PT coach, when he goes in for PT, because he's now walking again and he's starting to get rid of the cane, she said, wow, I mean, I've just never seen anybody in your age bracket fight so hard. And he said, well, I got a lot to live for. I can't mess around. I've got to be able to push a clutch into my old Alpha and go for a drive. That's positive mindset, and it's carried him forward in a nice way. Well, let's talk about Circuit of the Northwest, and I want y'all to talk about Brothers Powersports as well. But let's start with this new racetrack. why on earth? How are you doing this? When is it opening? Oh my gosh. Here, I'll throw a couple other balls for you to juggle in your life here.
Yeah, bring it on, Mark. Yeah, so how this all started is I was on a board called Bremerton Motorsports Park, and I got named to that board about 9 years ago. And it was known at the time that the port was going to be developing about 119 acres of asphalt. They were going to rezone it to aviation business. So we knew then that we were going to be looking for a new home. And the board I was on has since dissolved. There was a couple of us that moved forward with this task. And it was a monumental task. And we kept it under wraps for years. We went through the land use process with the city of Bremerton. We went through, we secured a 50-year land lease with the Port of Bremerton. So we kept this on the down low for a long time because these things take a long time to come to fruition. And so fast forward today, I've spent about the last 5 years pretty much every day working on this project. And that is aligning with the right team, getting educated on what works in our market studies, just basically what will work here, with the idea that I'm going to be moving our current operations across Highway 3 as much as possible. So as I mentioned before, we have 24 public partners. So we train Kitsap Transit. We do bus driver certification with them. Fire departments use us for their certification for their drivers. We do West Sound EVOC. So numerous police agencies in our region use that facility for their EVOC training. And not to mention the Porsche clubs and, the SCCA. We do motocross. We do off-road motorcycle racing. And we also do events. We do fundraisers. We do this thing called Drafts and Drums on the Drag. We do an event we just had called Redneck Supercross. Don't even ask me about that because
okay, it's self-describing.
It's the most fun, party we have all year. But we always try to benefit, a charity or whatnot. So we've worked with the PTSD Foundation out of Gig Harbor, for example, and so we want to learn how to do events. We want to the motorsports thing, but we want to be multi-purpose. So I look at our current facility as practice. We're in the Busch Series, or what used to be the Busch Series, and we're going to Winston Cup, right? So we want to learn and transfer that skill set and bring the right partners across Highway 3 when we go big time. And so that's how it got started. And then along the way, I've aligned myself with an owner's rep, the Joe Cohen Group. He's out of Florida, from Indianapolis, and he's got a lot of motorsports pedigree. Him and his team have worked on 19 projects all over the globe. So he gives me a lot of confidence and a lot of leadership personally and professionally. So really proud to be aligned with that group, as well as some other groups that we're about ready to make formal announcement. We're in talks with AAT. And so we're going to have a working relationship with them. Partnering with the right people, to me, is everything. You can have a road course and I can say, hey, it's a Tilka design. You're going to get 150 track days. It's going to have formulated asphalt. It's going to have proper curbing. It's going to have FIA homologation. All that stuff is awesome, right? But to me, it's about people and relationships and how we're going to use that facility for the betterment of motorsports. How are we going to close the skills gap? Let's use this facility so students are involved in secondary and post-secondary education. That moves the needle for me. If we can be the stewards of motorsports and put it in a better place, then I'm in. And along the way, I've attracted the right partnerships moving forward.
It's fantastic. I know Joe Cohen. I've talked to him many times. So you've partnered with a guy who knows what he's doing there. When I first moved up here to Gig Harbor 25 years ago, the first place I went to go consider vintage racing was Bremerton Raceway. The Sovereign group up here was running, and I met some guys, and they said, you should start racing. And I went up there. My son, who's 26 now, was 2 years old. I remember I had a GT350 Shelby Mustang. I have a great picture of him sitting on the nose of that car, and we were sitting there watching the cars run over the fence, and I ended up buying a Lotus 18 Formula Junior that I raced for many years. But that was the beginning, but that was just like an old runway with some tilt-up buildings, and Of course, raced out at Pacific Raceway many, many times as well. But what you're doing is, I mean, the level of upping you're doing with what I'm seeing on your website, and I'll put links to your website on his show notes page here for you listeners to find. Circuit of the Northwest, you can Google it and find it, is really commendable. And yeah, you can't do this without surrounding yourself with the best people. And I'm so thrilled because you're going to be like right up the road from you too. Yeah, it's really cool. Tell our listeners a little bit about Brothers Powersports too, this business that you have in Bremerton.
Yeah, Brothers Powersports, we've been in our current location since 1990, and we're a multi-line dealership, full service. We carry Honda, Yamaha, Can-Am, Indian. We do Sea-Doo watercraft. We do Honda and Yamaha power equipment. And so I've been here almost 20 years now. I own the business with my uncle, and we're a nephew-uncle duo. And well, we just work real well together. And in the power sports industry, you only cater to 3 to 4% of the population. And so we try to do events. We try to have a lot of fun. If you love people and you love motorcycles and you love to have fun, then that's the people that work here. And so we have the same mission with our business at the Brothers Powersports, and that is for the betterment of power sports. And so that's what I'm all about. And then you start attracting the right customers, we do race series, which we can, talk about that too. Yeah. So everything that I do is kind of intertwined, but it all makes sense, right?
Oh, It's incredible what you're up to. Let me ask you this. When it comes to the new Circuit of the Northwest, what has you the most excited about this venue?
Yeah, definitely the founders that have signed up. Our goal with our founders raise is to find 300 like-minded enthusiasts. And so to me, everything's about relationships and people. And I'm so excited the people that we have a small group, we're going to grow it to 300, but they're just great people. And that to me is the most exciting thing, because you can only spend so long in your car, right? And you're going to be out socializing and you're going to be, talking about other things. And so you want that member group, that founder group, to be cohesive. And you want them to be like-minded, not just for the love of motorsports, but just for the love of camaraderie and other people. And I think like attracts like, and that's what I'm most excited about is, what will be possible with this group. It's going to be amazing.
I think it will be. And the multi-use of the facility, you think about racetracks, if they're just isolated to some racing venues, they sit empty all this time. It's the same with big sports arenas. They have to find other ways to utilize that ground, because just sitting there is not bringing any income in, and it still has to be maintained. There still has to be people there policing it, protecting it, and so forth. So I think it's fantastic. We're going to take a short break and thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. My favorite collector car magazine is Keith Martin's Sports Car Market. I've been a subscriber for decades. Sports Car Market is the Wall Street Journal for the enthusiast and the collector. It's your monthly must-read whether you dream of owning a collector car, have 2 cars, or 200. Sports Car Market has been around for 31 years, and it's filled with valuable articles, intelligent write-ups, and the latest auction sales. Go to sportscarmarket.com and subscribe today. Plus, you'll get the exclusive SCM guide to restoration shops included for free. At checkout, use the code CARSYEAH and receive a 50% discount on your digital subscription. It's an exclusive offer from me here at Cars Yeah. I'm Mark Green, and I love Sports Car Market magazine. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. If you're listening to Cars Yeah, you've probably spent some time working on your favorite ride. But how confident are you working on your finances? You may be able to rebuild a fuel injection system, but can you decipher the details of a mutual fund? If you're like me, investments, insurance, annuities, budgeting, and other financial concepts may seem a bit daunting, but what if I told you there's a book that describes these subjects and more in an easy-to-read and a very humorous way? My friend Chris Kimball, CFP, a longtime sponsor and past guest here on Cars Yeah, has written that book, and it's titled The Saga of Ike and Penny, a couple's humorous journey through the confusing world of finance. It's a fun look at things you need to know. Everything from investing to effective ways to get rid of credit card debt, and it's probably the only book on finance with a VMAX on the front cover and a classic Mini Cooper on the back. The book's available at Amazon for just $10, and this book will dramatically improve the direction of your financial future. I gave copies to each of my children. All securities are through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Christopher Kimball Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Get your copy, The Saga of Ike and Penny, today. All right, Brian, we're back. Now, I want to ask you this question. I ask all my guests about a big challenge or a big failure. For 5 years, you've worked on this. A lot of people go, how can you work on something for 5 years that still isn't come to fruition? I have knowledge, of course, as I've talked with Joel before, talked with you. There's some big challenges that you faced with this, and especially when it comes to government interaction and cities and all these entities. And I realize why you got to keep it kind of quiet for a while, because then you got people outside that go, I don't want a racetrack in my backyard, or whatever reason they don't like you. Pick a reason these days, right? So walk us through a massive challenge you faced, but more importantly, the fact that you came out of it was great, and you can share that, but what was the lesson learned?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's two things that come to mind. In 2008 was probably the biggest challenge personally and professionally with the recession and how we made it through that. What I learned, and you always kind of take the positives as you move along, but what I learned from that was that the business that I'm in, which is Powersports, which is a relational business, we sell fun, and everyone's discretionary income obviously shrunk in October of 2008. And so we had to take a look in the mirror and really think about who we understood, that it's the enthusiast that gets you through these things. And we really haven't changed our philosophy the last 12 years. It's all about the enthusiast. So we try to do more events. We try to do, have more fun, do rallies, do rides. We also have the Indian brand. I don't think I mentioned that. We signed on with them in April of 2019.
That's an iconic name. Very cool.
Yeah, it's so fun because they're a lifestyle brand, and every product we sell is a lifestyle. And so the biggest challenge is when your revenue gets cut in half, essentially, your costs don't get cut in half. How are you what's that foundation you're going to move forward with? And what we found out real quickly, it's not more cable advertising. It's not, running ads in the newspaper or slashing prices and say, hey, come get this hot deal today. It's not about that. It's about the experience and having the people every day that are on the same mission and love the industry. Then that attracts the right enthusiasts into our doors. And for that, I'm forever thankful for those enthusiasts and the passion of powersports, to get you through those times. And the other thing you touched on is, how can you stick with something for years and years and years and years? And, it's an army crawl. I don't know how else to describe it.
Now, there's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
You're the first guy who said, I like that. An army crawl. Yeah. It takes time, but you got to keep going up that mountain, that mountain.
And, and I'm the type, I don't quit very easily. And, what motivates me on a daily basis is this is a lot bigger than Brian Nilsen. It's a lot bigger than one use. Or if it was all about me, I'd obviously quit a long time ago. But I feel like I'm fighting for, motorsports, and I'm fighting for the users to offer a facility, not only to move my current users, so like I mentioned, I have 24 public, we're going to go when that gets shut down. I'm fighting for them as well. And I think that gives me fuel, because I want to look at them and say, hey, we have a solution. We have a home for you, and so that's a fight that I've chosen. And we have gone through a public process, which we were lucky enough to get, over $500,000 from the public and also with the port. They're a quasi-government entity, and we have a 50-year land lease, and we have the city's been great to work with. So we have made great strides, and we're in this area now where we're partnering with the right people to attract the right founders, and this will be their home. And that's what they're so excited about. So we're going to have car storage options. We're going to have these things called autominiums. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
I have. Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. So there's going to be places where, I want them to be so excited, 28,000 square foot clubhouse with a spa, with amenities, simulators, things where you come and it's like, wow, this is home. I feel like this is my place. You have golf courses all over the place, and you have golf enthusiasts. Well, what about the motorsports enthusiasts? We need a home, right? So we want to give that. We want to be that place where they go to and rub elbows with like-minded enthusiasts. We have a big patio, we have a lounge, we have locker rooms, we have it done right. And I guess I've researched this, been around the world. In Germany, when Tilke had me at a private track called Bilsterberg. And, just being on that property is so motivating, seeing how they do things and how meticulous they are and how the facility is just, I think it's like the Augusta National of motorsports. It's just very, very well done, very sanitary. And I take those experiences and, implement the best ideas into this project. And I think that's what we're sitting with here today.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Bravo. I mean, wow. What an endeavor. Well, let's go back in time a little bit. I'd love for you to share a story that instigated your personal passion for cars. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew you were indeed a motorsports car guy?
Yeah, a motorsports car guy. I think, when I was at Washington State University, I went to Chad Little's brothers were my roommates. And so.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So that they conned me into going back east and being on his pit crew, which was it was a life-changing experience. I think that's when I became a car guy, is when we spent long nights at the shop. And at that time, he had just lost his ride with Cale Yarborough, and he was starting his own team. There was literally 5 people on the team. And so we got to roll our sleeves up and work on the engines, work on the chassis, work on body work, the decals, you name it. We just pitched in and did it. And it was just those times that I'll forever cherish, because my crew, they're like family to this day. And so I just, again, it's about the people and the relationship and less about the actual automobile. That's probably when I knew that, hey, yeah, I like this car thing too.
Yeah,
I grew up on 2 wheels and, raced the minis and, got to the point. So I've been in the racing and on the 2-wheel side, but, once I moved back east, it was unbelievable, like how popular it is back there. And I'd like to bring some of that culture to the Western region.
Yeah, lifestyle for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was the first really special car in your life, or vehicle in this case? I know you love bikes. I rode motorcycles as a kid, did a lot of stuff down in Baja, did a lot of like motocross type riding and so forth, and then kind of abandoned bikes. But I got back into them for a while and bought myself a Ducati Monster and an Envy Agusta F4. Yeah, just what I didn't need to be on up here in the Pacific Northwest in the wet, but they were fun. But what was the really first vehicle in your life, and maybe share a memory you have about that ride?
Yeah, definitely. The Honda MR50, that's the, I had one of those and rode with my dad. My dad was a state trials champion in the 70s. And
really? Trials? Oh, that's
trials.
Cool.
Yeah. So I rode with him, and, those are just fond memories. And a couple years ago, my son and I restored a Bultaco Sherpa, same year that my dad
cool.
rode. It was so cool.
That's the picture you sent me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. I'll put that picture on Brian's show notes page. You got to check it out. It's great. The whole family's there. Yeah, Bull Tacos. Now, there's a name that goes back into my history as a kid from the 70s.
Yeah, it was a Sherpa T, 1974, and yeah, it was a great project for my son and I. We had a great time. Of course, I had a lot of help from the dealership and the shop here. But yeah, we gave it to him a couple years ago, and it was, got him a T-shirt, and it was just pretty emotional, because that's,
no kidding.
You hold those times dear, and me on my MR50 and him on his Voltaco. That was, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, here's a bit of an introspective question for you, Brian. If I crawled into your head and said, you know what, tomorrow you're going to wake up manifested as a vehicle, what would Brian be and why?
Oh man, right now I'm definitely a bulldozer, so
yeah, no kidding.
I'll just call it a John Deere 450J. We use it for a motocross track, and so I feel like that's what I've been the last 6-8 years.
Yeah. Well, I think you're the first one of those, so that makes you rather unique.
Yeah,
I get some pretty interesting answers to that question, and some of them I kind of scratch my head and go, well, not what you want to be, it's what you are. But I think you found exactly what you are right now with what you're doing. All right, we're entering the last lap. You've been here many times. The white flag's out. I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of that bulldozer. Can you blip a bulldozer throttle? I guess you can. Yeah.
For sure.
So here we go. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
Yeah, I just don't quit. When I commit to something, I see it through, and I just don't quit.
Tenacity, persistence, that is a very common thing among the 1,000+ entrepreneurs I've had on this show. Yeah, you just can't give up. There's a lot that's going to get in your way. Just expect it and work your way around it, or jump in a bulldozer and go right straight through it.
Right.
If I could arrange for you to have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would it be?
Roger Penske.
Yeah.
I just have so much respect for that man in, business perspective and the personal. And I think he's breathes a lot of life into motorsports. And I just so admire, what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
And what he's doing presently. Of course. Steve McQueen.
he bought a little racetrack. I heard something over in Indy. Yeah. Something like that. And Steve McQueen, here's another one that's really unique. I had Steve's son, Chad, on my show a couple times, and I got to meet him last year at the Friends of Steve McQueen car show in Chino Hills, which is part of the Boys Republic, where they have a great school that his dad attended when his dad was a mischievous young man and had a choice. Well, he got a choice in front of a judge, go to jail or go to the Boys Republic. And Steve McQueen was like 14 years old. And he said, well, what's the Boys Republic? And he said, well, it's a camp out in the country. And he said, well, I'll take the camp, But the rest is history. He put a trust fund together where they supply money, and they donated over $1 million last year to the Boys Republic through their car show. It's fascinating. But Roger Penske, I just had a talk this morning with Bill Warner, who puts on the beautiful Amelia Island Concours in his 25th year. Roger's going to be their guest of honor March 5th through the 8th at the Amelia Island Concours. Penske, you just look at somebody like he's bigger than life, bigger than life. How does he do what he's done? It's incredible. But I think the secret there is what you have already shared. Surround yourself with really great people and let them do their job. So, yeah, Penske, I'd love to get him on this show. He's kind of a shy guy. He doesn't like doing interviews. I don't know. Maybe I'll get him one of these days. We'll see what we can do. Maybe I'll get him up here and you and I can have lunch with him. How's that sound?
I'd check that off the list.
Wouldn't that be good?
That would be amazing.
Okay. I'll see what I can do. How about the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Oh boy. Other than, let's see here, righty tighty, lefty loosey. That's pretty good.
Yeah. My dad taught me that. I've used that. I still use that to this day.
To finish first, you first must finish.
There you go.
How's that one?
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's a good racer.
I'm trying to remember do you remember who originally said that? I should know this, because I've heard that before, but I think the premise is even more important than the person who shared it. Speaking of great things, how about a resource? Is there a resource that is a go-to for you that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I could share our domains, our websites.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be okay. Circuitofthenorthwest.com, brotherspowersports.com, and if you know any motocross racers, pacwestmx.com. Those are some good websites to get some good information.
There you go. I'll make sure I put links to all those on Brian's show notes page. So if you go to the Cars Yeah website, click Brian Nilsen, Nilsen, into the search bar, those links will pop right up on his show notes page. Is there a book that you've read that you think our listeners should crack open and read?
Yeah, The Influencer is probably the best book it's for growth, and it's all about getting the right environment for growth and persuasion. And it's less about rah, like, hey, let's get something done. It's more about cultivating your team and preparing them for growth. So it's called The Influencer. It's a great book.
The Influencer. I'll remind our listeners there's a great place on the Cars Yeah website called Guest Recommended Books. It's under the Resources tab. This book, The Influencer, and over 1,500 books by my inspiring automotive enthusiasts are all listed there, and I made it really easy with a one-click to buy to that little company up north of here, Amazon, I think it's called, something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
I think they sell a few books once in a while. So, yeah, made it real easy for you. All right, we're up to the checkered flag here, Brian. Another place you've been on the track many times. I'm going to fire off, or actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you what kind of collector car I can buy for you today. But there's some rules to this game since I'm writing the check. The sponsors always get to make the rules. One is you can't sell it to fund your racetrack. So if you pick a Ferrari GTO and put another 50 to 80 million bucks in your pocket, not going to let that happen. Because the other rule is you have to keep it and you have to drive it. But it's the only collector car you can have. You can only have one in your garage, so you need to choose very carefully. What can I buy you today, Brian?
Mark, I would take a Porsche 917.
Oh, one of those little things.
Yeah. I don't know what they run, but I'm sure you could write a check for it.
Yeah, I'm sure I can. So are we talking like the classic blue and orange colors, the Gulf colors? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. Something about that car moves me. It's it has it. That's before they figured out what downforce was, right? So like the 1969 version, it was a handful. And I remember, I forget the driver's name, but I remember when he DNF'd at Le Mans, he was happy. He's like, oh, thank God I didn't finish because I almost died about 3 times. That car is so cool looking.
I had Vic Elford on the show. He's driven every 917 that Porsche ever built. And he said some of the same things. He said you had to get into a whole nother zone. You go back on the Cars Yeah website and type Vic Elford in there and listen to my talk with him. And he talks about going around the racetrack and that during the night, the Mulsanne Straight going down, there was a little cafe. I think it was off to the left. And he said, when you're driving fast, if you look to the side, your eyes kind of catch an instant freeze frame. There was a woman in a red dress drinking coffee. And every time he'd go around, he'd see her. And then the last time he went around, she was gone. And, you're just listening to a guy who's going 240 plus miles an hour. And he's noticing a woman in a red dress drinking coffee. I mean, come on. Porsche 917. Well, I'll tell you what. I know a guy named Bruce Canepa down there in Scotts Valley, California. He can get his hands on one of those. In fact, he probably has one sitting in his shop right now. So I'll give Bruce a call. He'd be happy to take one of my checks. And we'll see if we can get this car. Can we wait until your track's built and then I'll bring it up and we can both drive it on the track?
Right. Yeah.
Would you like that?
I'd love that. It'd be great.
All right. I'll get to work.
I had an oil drum inspired from that car in my bathroom. I got it custom made. It's so cool. I'll send you a picture of it.
Okay. Yeah. I was at Retromobile in Paris years ago, and a guy had made a whole series of furniture around that Gulf livery and couch and chairs and swings and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I would have loved to bring those home. My wife would have just gone, what? You paid how much for what? That's very cool. Brian, you've taken me on a really fun ride. I'm so glad I had you on the show here. I know I've been wanting to get you on for a while, but you weren't in a position back then to really announce what's going on. There's a website now. You can go and check it out, circuitofthenorthwest.com. You can see what he's up to. Before I let you go, though, could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off down the track in that Gulf liveried Porsche 917?
Yeah, about me is I want to grow motorsports in our region. And, someone that I really respect and admire basically said, how do you put more air into the balloon, versus sucking air out of it? And I think when we look at motorsports, we have to figure out a way to grow it. And you're going to grow it by relationships and people and the right partnerships and involving, there's people that should be in motorsports that might be a tech professional. They might be a dentist. They might be, the common denominators are going to love automobiles. They're going to love cars. They're going to have a ton of passion around that. So how do you get those people into our space and I had a chance to go to a couple of events in Scottsdale, and, I'd call me a new car guy, if you will. And my takeaway was there's a lot of unbelievable people in the motorsport space. They love closing the gap on skilled labor, for example. I was down there with the Tech Force Foundation, and they were giving scholarships away to kids. And, you had people, they were auctioning items. And I thought it was so cool because that, to me, grows motorsports. That motorsports, those relationships make those things happen. So that's about me. There's a lot of people with 500 plus horsepower cars that don't have proper instruction. All the manufacturers are coming out with them, and let's give them a home, and let's grow motorsports, and let's include those people in that world. And then it's for the betterment of the sport.
Absolutely. Well, Tech Force, I've had many of the people, and mostly women from Tech Force on this show that are doing tremendous things, especially for young people wanting to get into this industry. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I'm glad that you met those folks because they are just passionate. Yeah, driven hard.
Cindy, I think we have a mutual friend. And
Cindy's awesome.
She's amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Cindy. She's great. She's been a guest on the show here too. What are the many ways, again, that people can learn about what you're doing these days, Brian?
circuitofthenorthwest.com, brotherspowersports.com.
There you go. I'll make sure I put links to those on Brian's show notes page and everything else that he shared today. Follow along with this. It's going to be so exciting. Keep in touch with me, Brian, so I know when the next steps are happening here. Thank you for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your many wonderful life experiences with us. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you down the road.
Sounds great, Mark. Thanks for having me. It was an honor.
This has been great. Hey, Cars Yeah listeners, this is Mark Green. If you love the Cars Yeah podcast, I have something new for you. I've teamed up with Keith Martin, a collector car market expert and the editor of Sports Car Market magazine, to create the Buy, Sell, Hold podcast. Buy, Sell, Hold is the essence of collecting. Together, we take you on an educational ride into the collector car market, talking with industry experts, helping you navigate your collector car journey so you know when to buy, sell, hold. We talk with seasoned experts who buy, sell, and hold investment vehicles, and they'll share their insider secrets on how they make their buying decisions when it comes to making these important investments. You'll find the Buy, Sell, Hold podcast on the Cars Yeah website, on the Sports Car Market website, and if you're a podcast app subscriber to Cars Yeah, Buy, Sell, Hold will come right to your mobile device, just like the Cars Yeah podcast. Automatically. Join Keith Martin and me on a great new venture on the Buy, Sell, Hold podcast today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.